It was based on some very simple assumptions. There can only be 21 million Bitcoins. That's the max. 4 million of them have already been lost. So now we're down to 17 million. And we have the entire world that will be potential users. Now, when I made that prediction, I also predicted that it would be $5,000 before the end of 2017. Well, it almost peaked at $12,000 today. So yes, clearly my assumptions were way off. Now, I will not have to eat that part of my anatomy, I can assure you. I am perfectly safe at $1 million at the end of 2020. See, here's the problem. Everybody is making predictions based on the old paradigm of investment and growth, where 10% is astonishing. But we get 20% a day, consistently sometimes with some cryptocurrencies. Why? Because the supply is limited. We can't print anymore. Like you can print more US dollars, you can print more British pounds, you can print more Japanese yen. You cannot create any more Bitcoins and the maximum of 21 million. Now, if you take 21 million coins and let's say only half of the world ends up using Bitcoins, well, we've got 2.5 billion people using 21 million coins. Please just use your head. $1 million is nothing in 3 years, if I am correct. And I am correct. I don't make bets and lose them. My wife can tell you that. She's holding the phone here. So it's an easy bet. It's something I can absolutely guarantee. Now, since I said that, a bunch of people have jumped on the bandwagon, okay? Why? Because I said it, and I stand by it. And Bitcoin is accelerating in its value.
Yeah, we've got a lot of people that are saying that they expect by the end of next year, quite a few people said $40,000, $50,000. You're probably even higher than that in your estimation if it's going to get to $1 million by 2020. They're saying $40,000, $50,000 by the end of 2018 is what many people are expecting now.
No, my figure's at 78,000 by the end of 2018. However, what astonishes is people say, we think Bitcoin is going to be 14,000 by the end of 2018. What paradigm are they using? They are using the old paradigm where you do have bubbles, where things do pop, where you do have corrections. The word correction cannot be applied to Bitcoin. That's from an old paradigm. So here's the problem. It does not matter whether governments like Bitcoin or not, whether banks like Bitcoin or not. And I was on with Jamie Dimon when he was saying Bitcoin was a fraud. Well, it's clearly not. Jamie Dimon is head of America's largest bank. Obviously, he's frightened. All banks are frightened. In 5 years' time, we will have no banks because everybody with a Bitcoin wallet will be its own bank. I can do wire transfers or the equivalent. I can do the equivalent of writing checks. Everything that a bank can do, my wallet can do. Yeah, so in September, I was supposed to give a talk in Beijing at BitCan, one of the largest Bitcoin conferences. The week before, China shut down the exchanges and made ICOs illegal, which was the topic of my talk. Had I shown up, I would have been arrested. The entire conference was moved to Hong Kong. Oddly enough, every keynote speaker that was to speak at that conference showed up in Hong Kong, and almost everybody who had registered. That shows the dedication. But let me get back to what we were discussing earlier. There's nothing that governments can do to shut down Bitcoin. Now, they could stop me from showing up in Beijing. I'm a human being. They could stop me at the airport and arrest me. They cannot stop and did not stop trading in Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency. It is impossible for a government to stop a distributed system like Bitcoin.
The Chinese manufacturers are absolutely outraged at the legacy banking system. I mean, they have to wait between 6 and 8 weeks for payment, and they have to pay on the order of $100,000 to a bank just to channel the payment. Bitcoin just erases that.
Right. And it's interesting because these small companies are taking on these banks. And I worked in the banking industry for 9 years, and it's the constant innovator's dilemma. The young company wants to try it a new way. The old company wants to save and protect your profit margins.
Right.
You don't even do it. You don't even really think about it. It's just like the banks don't want to move because this is a great business to be in. And and the young guys are trying to change it. The Bitcoin people, that kind. Now, and the banks probably don't even recognize it until someday
Obviously.
they'll buy the company.
Right,
or they'll,
exactly.
Then they'll
I mean,
capitulate.
I mean, you have this, you have this heavily regulated finance, banking industry, right? And along comes Bitcoin, and it becomes this clash between what you can do and what the regulators think you can do, because the regulations were set up to protect the consumer, but that was 4 decades ago.
Right.
So you have this paradoxical situation where the regulations are actually preventing innovation. It's like Uber in Paris, the taxi company, or taxi similar to taxi company.
So Uber's trying to make taxis available to everyone, and then in Paris they're running up against taxi legislation.
Exactly.
Okay.
And in Paris, they've so outcompeted the legacy taxis that they actually were struck with regulations saying that they may not pick up a passenger until 15 minutes have passed from the taxi call. So they have to wait by the curbside for 13 minutes before they can pick people up.
Yeah,
and that's a way
is old school.
Right, and that's like how these old regulators see how they are leveling the playing field with the old inefficient dinosaurs. Whereas in reality, they are preventing innovation, they're preventing progress. So this is where I see Bitcoin coming in, because they don't basically care about regulation. The exchanges, the bridges to the old system are affected by regulation, but you can't really regulate once you go all Bitcoin.
Right. Now, Bitcoin, so you've been upfront with us. You have a big position in Bitcoin. You put all your money in Bitcoin. It's almost hit $1,000 a Bitcoin.
It is.
In the last few days. It's gone up quite a bit in the last.
Actually, it's past 1,000.
It has. So it's gone 4 or 5 times in the last month or two, or 3 times.
In October it was at 109 at its bottom. So it hit 1070 today. So it's practically a tenfold in slightly less than 2 months.
And one of your Twitter followers tweeted out something today, said, at what price will it remain stable? And you said something like between $2 and $5 million of Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's what I estimate.
Most people would fall off their chair hearing $2 to $5 million dollars of Bitcoin. But why do you say that? And why is that possible for evaluation?
Well, I mean, a lot of people are just seeing the charts and thinking, how high will it go? What I'm doing is counting backwards. I mean, this is a transactional currency, and it is a store of value. As such, it is a product and a service competing on a very tangible market for stores of value and for transactional currencies. So what is the size of that market?
Right. And this is important.
And how big a market share can Bitcoin realistically take within a foreseeable time frame? Right. When you ask that question, then you come up with a market cap of Bitcoin total, and then you divide that by the number of Bitcoin in circulation by your estimated time, and seeing how Chinese are buying Bitcoin like crazy, I actually had to adjust this number upwards, but then you come up with a number of about $2 to $5 million per Bitcoin.
Now there's about 21 million Bitcoins currently outstanding.
There
right?
will be 21 million
That's the
bitcoins
cap.
outstanding at the end.
Okay.
Today we have about half of that.
About
12,
half of that.
12-ish.
Because when I used to hear about the Bitcoin story, I mean, I did the same math you did. When at $100 a Bitcoin with say 10 million outstanding, that's like what, $1 billion of total capital. I mean, that's not even the market cap of Apple. That's 100th of the market cap. So I was like, this can't exist because it's not big enough, like you said, to be a. But when you start getting up in the numbers you're talking about $1 trillion.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to replace international trade.
Right. So it has to get that big in order
Right,
to be
right,
a real
exactly,
currency.
exactly.
And since it's infinitely dividable, it doesn't really matter the actual number of bitcoins.
It doesn't in the slightest. I mean, you're going to be
Right.
dealing in micro bitcoins before soon.
So whether they're 10
Hold on.
million or 100 million, or it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter. I mean, it's easily divisible to 16 decimal places today,
Okay.
and you can extend that as long as you
Right.
want.
Change the country.
Could I ask you, you've been publicly reported to predict that Bitcoin prices would be, maybe go from the 64,500 it is now to $250,000 by 2021. I want to couple that with that you have.
Yeah, when Bitcoin was at, or go ahead,
I just want to
it.
couple it with some Nobel laureates like Paul Krugman and others, and Joe Stiglitz and so forth, and even great investors like Warren Buffett, who would take the other side of that. And markets are always people that are going to go long and short, and Warren Buffett's certainly been more right than wrong, but I'm kind of curious in the context of what some Nobel laureates and even Warren Buffett or Nouriel Roubini has used as kind of harsh words about crypto, and your prediction.
So here's the way I look at it. Well, first, you might want to listen to me, because when it was at 230 on air, I predicted that it would go to 10,000 in 3 years, and 3 years almost to the day it hit 10,000.
Tim, I'm
Okay.
here listening to you.
Okay. So you may want to think, and I'm predicting 250,000 in 4 years, in 2022. So I look, those guys are wonderful. Warren Buffett, just so you get the idea, I have a lot of Bitcoin, so I really care about how it does. Warren Buffett has a lot of fiat currency. He has a lot of dollars. He doesn't like the fact that all of a sudden there's a better currency. And he's going, wait, what about my money? And meanwhile, all this stuff is coming, and he's going, oh, wait, no, I want dollars. We should all work in dollars. This is what I have. Same thing with Jamie Dimon. He's going, we control all your dollars. We are a bank, and we control all of your dollars. And then he's starting to see like 1%, 2%, 5% of some of his big accounts leaving. He's saying, whoa, where are you taking all that money? And they're saying, well, I'm going into a better currency. And he's not able to provide that better currency, any kind of service around that better currency. So these guys are moving it into Coinbase, or they're moving it into Binance or somewhere else. So, and economists, they do like to try to project, but they're never really thinking. I mean, some are really extraordinary, but they tend to want to put it into the box that they're already in. They're not thinking about all these entrepreneurs and what all these entrepreneurs are potentially doing with this new technology that makes for a better currency, a better way of life. It's decentralized, it's cross-border, it's global, and it's frictionless. And so why would you want a currency that's tied to the whims of some government official or some central bank when you can have a currency that is global and open, and everybody sees it?
So, I don't know if it's working. I share your
It's okay.
view.
It only matters that mine is.
No, I mean, who's the little guy next to Draper, right?
Do you want it? Go ahead.
Yeah. So, I'm trying to tease out, though. You've got a point of view. It's an important point of view that a lot of people want to hear. But on the other side, there are economists, like the Bank of International Settlement just did this big report this past weekend and said, not so fast. Centralized fiat currency has worked It hasn't, I'm going to agree with you, it hasn't worked perfectly. I mean, we've had a lot of crises, we've had a lot of bank runs, we've had a lot of failures, and central bankers don't get it right on a regular basis. But what they're saying is that right now the asset is too volatile in value. I'm just focusing on one thing, to really be a true medium of exchange and a unit of account.
Let me hit the volatile thing. Okay, the way I look at it is when people say, isn't Bitcoin really volatile? I think, oh yeah, this is great. One Bitcoin is still worth one Bitcoin. It's just all these other currencies are volatile as they disappear from view. I mean, they're in panic mode. This is panic mode. You're seeing it go way up, way down, way up, way down. It's panic mode because they see that there's a better way to do things, and that continues to happen.